Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lockie Stewart. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 397 of the Man That Can Project podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit of what I've been learning about, what I've been curious about, and what's actually going on in my life. I feel I've been interviewing some incredible guests and having some incredible conversations on the show recently, which has been awesome. And also on these solo episodes, diving into some important topics. But I just wanted to give a life update because I think some of the things that have been going on can be or highlight some lessons that I've learned, or maybe things that I've refocused on as a result of things going on, and that I truly believe a lot of people will get value from. A lot of you gents will get value from, which I'm excited to sort of talk about and get into. But before we dive into the episode, I want to share another review. I know I said I'd be doing these every week. I hadn't updated my podcast noting part to continue to remind me of that. So my bad, but here we are. So from Jeremy Strong, highly valuable insights, inspiration, and exploration related to a topic that is often overlooked and somewhat taboo: mental health. Definitely recommend adding this one to your regulars. Lockie is a champion and has so much value to share. So I appreciate that, Jezza. Really do. And that's on Apple Podcasts. So if you want to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, head on over there. Otherwise, rate and review and do all of those cool things. But I want to talk about a life lived in two halves. Now, I drove up to visit my parents last night because I'm heading over to Nashville and then on to Paris from Wednesday, which is going to be incredible. I really cannot wait for that trip. It's I'm just keen for a fucking holiday, to be fair. But within the Academy, the book of the month this month is Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, which is an incredible read. This little bad boy here. And it's just brought so many things to my attention that I feel like many of us are already aware of, but hearing the impact that it can actually have on us was quite daunting. Because while I was up in Toowoomba, one thing Mum always says to me is, whenever you're up, you're never really present. And during the row, as I mentioned on a recent podcast, we had a phone call, Mum and I, and she mentioned it was one of the first times where she felt I was really present with her. And for me, I was like, cool. That's a good thing, right? That's a good sign. And during the rowing as well, because I was so focused on getting through the rows and the preparation for that, the stretching, the eating, the sleeping, I didn't, use social media as much as I am probably notorious for. And as a result of that, I wrote more, and I thought a lot more, and I became more creative. I was learning the guitar, learning French. I still am. But I noticed today and yesterday when I was in Toowoomba that I was just craving my phone. I made a commitment to myself that I wanted to leave it upstairs so I wouldn't be sitting there on social media. And every time I'd go up, whether it was to grab something, I'd be like, should I take my phone down or should I leave it up here? And sometimes I took it down. I gave in, and other times I didn't. But what I noticed was this. When I took my phone downstairs, I didn't communicate very much. I missed so many things because I was just scrolling Facebook or TikTok or checking sports scores, which I thought was important to me. But meanwhile, I'm missing out the life that's in front of me, right? Which was time with my parents, which is the reason why I went up there, which was time with my grandma who's elderly, and just thinking and the opportunity to get bored, because I know I missed that, because when I left my phone upstairs, I did start to feel bored. There were books and magazines on the table that I was like, well, when we're not talking, when mum was feeding the animals, or I went and did that. We did a whole afternoon of gardening, but I started to get bored, and I was like, I might go for a run, or I might do this. I might wash the car. And I started thinking again. And it's funny, when you start feeling bored, you actually start thinking about doing productive things. But many of us never give ourselves the opportunity to do that. Fucking crazy. And Mum and I were having a good conversation this morning when we were having a coffee, and I was saying, I'm reading this book, Stolen Focus. It's mind blowing. You should really read it. And Mum's like, oh, it sounds not very similar, but kind of like what I'm reading. She was reading, where is the book? It is called No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Wood. And she mentioned that it's, sounds very similar, but we obviously got talking about the distraction. I said, look, even when I'm here with you right now, I feel like I'm craving my phone. Like I legitimately am. And she said one of the best things that stood out to her in the book that she was reading was the life, as I mentioned, a life lived in two halves, like the life of what's actually in front of us in the real world, and then the life that's in front of us in the digital world. And that slapped me in the fucking face, because here I am, even with this podcast, I have all these incredible moments in my life, but I miss them. And I know I miss them because I'm looking at my screen. I'm thinking, hey, could I capture this as content? Could there be something that I could share to other people from this moment? And rather than being present in the actual moment and just experiencing it so much for what it is, I'm sitting there going, right, what's going to be the best angle for this? What, am I going to put this on TikTok, YouTube? Am I going to talk about this on the podcast? So I'm not actually being present. I'm thinking about how I can repurpose a moment, how I can capture a moment rather than living the fucking moment. And I don't know whether you can relate to that. You have so many moments now where it's through your phone, or you check, even people pulling their phones out at the dinner table. You're like, we're trying to have a conversation. Now you're on TikTok or something. It's just like, why? Obviously, if you read Stolen Focus, you'll know why many of us do that, but we need to be aware of it. We need to hold ourselves accountable. And obviously, we're not the main culprits. We can hold our friends to a higher standard. They can hold us, but it's also, we got to just understand that these fucking phones are so addictive, and what's in them is also addictive. And I really want you to start thinking about, are you more focused on portraying a good quality of life than you are actually living it? Because so many of us are. And I feel definitely like I lean in that. I'm really actually nervous to be heading overseas, because part of me wants to just live it, but I'm also like, well, part of me, this is going to be an awesome thing for people to follow along. For everyone who follows me on social media, there's going to be plenty of content. I'm networking, I'm podcasting. I think it's going to be great for my business. But fuck, man, like, when do I switch up? When does it stop? At what point does it stop? And that's the challenge that's going on for me at the moment. And I really feel like there's this life lived in two halves. There really is. And there's the one of the side of me who wants to be bored, wants to go, oh, I've got some downtime. Let's read, or let's go for a run, or let's get outside. And then there's this other half that can sit down so effortlessly, pick up my phone and just consume content, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or anything like that. And then I get excited about making content. So it's definitely an interesting time to be alive, but I think it's, I'd highly, highly, highly recommend reading Stolen Focus. Definitely one of the most eye-opening books that I have read recently. So get amongst that one. The second thing that's going on in my life, well, one, our family, or when I say our family, I mean Amy's family cat passed or got euthanized yesterday, put down, which was a sad time, right? And it's moments like this. Obviously, Licorice was the cat's name. Over the past week really took a turn for the worse and was becoming struggling to walk and looked like he was in a lot of pain. So I was like, every morning, because I drop the car off there every morning, I wanted to spend some intentional time with him. I was like, because one morning this week, more than likely, I'm going to come here and you're not going to be there. And that first morning was this morning. And while this week was happening, was unfolding in front of me, I'm like, why every day nearly had the opportunity to spend some intentional time with you, but often I was not present in the moment and didn't enjoy the time there when you were more energetic, when you were mucking around and bringing so much joy to everyone else's life. And that really then became more present again today when the same thing from my grandmother. She's at my parents' house at the moment, 80, 84, 86, one of those two numbers. But you just see them become older, more elderly. And I'm like, she starts sharing occasional stories of what life was like when she was younger. And for those who've listened to the podcast for a long time, you'll have remembered that I actually did some conversations with my granddad. I haven't released those podcasts yet. I'm still thinking about when that'll drop, but it's very fascinating to be able to learn from those in our life and just also appreciate that one day they're not going to be there, whether it's your grandparents, your parents, friends, partners. So are you maximizing that time? Life goes by so fucking fast. So for me, this past week has really helped remind me that while the phone is a great tool and it allows me to chat with a lot of you, it also can take me away from the present of actually getting the fulfillment, the learnings, and the lessons and the experiences that give me so much joy and I guess teach me so much at the same time. So that's one important thing. But also the second one, life goes so fucking fast. You don't know when your time's up or people in your life that you care so much about. So make sure you let them know that you care about them. Make sure you make it fucking count. That was a short, sharp one. But if you got value from this, remember, just hit subscribe because there'll be another episode coming on Monday with Jesse. It's going to be an absolute cracker. We have the How to Build Massive Confidence webinar, which goes live Tuesday night, 6 Australian Eastern Standard Time. So jump on that one as well. Until then, do something today to make yourself better for tomorrow. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lockie Stewart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.